means that the brain's ability to develop, the brain's ability to learn, the brain's ability to mop up, even after accidents, the healing phase, your brain is able to pick up a lot of things, shape personality, shape character. Now, when children are born between 0 to 9, when you have a child, what happens is that most people are excited. You're interested if it's a boy or a girl, pink dresses, blue for the boy. There's the fancies, there's the dedication. Some people never keep their children on the ground. Most of the greatest people of all time, Kobe Bryant, Rafael Nadal, Serena Williams, Venus Williams, all of them picked up their sporting career at age 3. But for the Williams sisters, it was age 4. Because, that is the point where you can absorb and learn a skill. You can learn 3 languages at age 3 when you're a child. What happens is that when you have a child, you should first have a vision of who you hope that this child becomes. Because you should design what I call a module, or what the schools call a curriculum. There is a reason why a child is born into a family, because the family is the first school of any individual before you give your children to anybody to teach. The family is the first school for any child. Now, if the family is the first school, the question again I ask is a rhetoric. How many families build a module? And how many families build this module to include the school? That means that schooling or the education of the child is primarily the responsibility first of the family. If you are conscious to this degree, that means that even in the choice of the school that your child will attend, you will be very conscious and very intentional. Now, the child doesn't go to school because this is a class thing, because my friend's children are here, because my brother. No. It is because you as the parent has identified that this school can give my child the needs, academic needs or the educational needs. Now, when a child is born, the child is in a state where we call the theta stage, when the child does a lot of mopping up of consciousness. There was an example you made. You spoke about Betty Shabazz. Now look at the kind of woman Betty Shabazz was. Betty Shabazz was a nursing student and an activist when Malcolm X married her. That is to say, she was a woman who was very aware. So I will take you back to the fact that before you get ready to have a child, you should be somebody who has the emotional maturity, the awareness. Parenting is consciousness, like I always say. You should be conscious. The fact that you're an adult doesn't qualify you to be a parent. And so you must settle into the business of parenting. Now, when a child is born through the theta phase, this child learns a lot from the parents. So that means that if a child is born into an environment where the child is always engulfed by sad expressions, where the child is always engulfed by problems and noise, this child will naturally mop up those tendencies. Now, you spoke about the 0 to 9, where life is a multiplicity of 9. 0 to 9 is the formative years. And you had already said that, where a lot of formatting, if not majority of the formatting, can take place. The Jesuits say something: hand me a child 0 to 7 and I'll show you the man. That means that at age 0 to 7, hand me a child at 0 to 7 and I'll show you the man. Now, there are domains of learning. When you have a child, I will try not to delve into, because tomorrow is the event proper, where we can talk about the model, how you can develop a model. In the domains of learning, you have the psychomotor, you have the cognitive, and you have the affective, which actually speaks to all of the dimensions in which you can holistically develop a human being or a child, where your model can look into the psychomotor concerns, look into the cognitive concerns, and look into the affective concerns. Now, when you design a module that covers these 3, which is very holistic, psychomotor development speaks about the development of the fine motor skills, for example. But this is the problem with most parents. We are living in a generation where we have a lot of screen time. The world is evolving. When I was a child, we only had television from 4 p.m. till I think 9 p.m. when the news. But today we have all round the clock television time. So in an event where a parent wants to keep their children away from disturbing them, because even the parents are doing their own Insta blog and all kinds of blogging activities, for example, they hand the child a device. Am I trying to say that devices are bad? Devices are not completely bad. They are beneficial to the extent of e-learning, gaming, which can help you with problem-solving skills. But we also have media. We also have screen media, which is very addictive. And all of the things I've said are beneficial can also become detrimental if it is not apportioned in doses. Now, a child who is always on screen time, you have things like depression, addictiveness, screen time addiction, cannot develop their fine motor skills or their psychomotor. They will become highly deficient because the most they will become a couch potatoes. You'll find, look, everything we learn as human beings is for performance. If you go to school, it's for performance. The fact is that if Mr. Femi, you do your research so that you can put out, everything is for performance. We rate you based on your performance. So a child who is between age 0 to 9, constantly on television, switching between the television and the device given to him or her by the parents without any control is a recipe for disaster, because the fine motor skills of that child is going to suffer. We live in a generation where the child moves from their devices, the driver picks the child from the house to the school, and the driver picks the child from the school to the house. There is no interaction with the outside world. In education, that is where the word kindergarten came from. Kids in the garden. The kids must go outside and interact with nature. The kids must go, because they are in their theta stage, which is between age 0 to 7, which is within the 0 to 9 year cycle of life, the formative year. They are supposed to play with sand, allow their imagination, allow their creativity, allow their thinking. Let the child fall, the child will stand up. Put the child in the garden. Put the child in the play area. That's what you call now pre-kinder, where you call preschool. What is called preschool? A child at the age of 2, 3 has no business sitting in a class and the teacher says, sit down, lie down as what they do, lie down, don't make noise. It's supposed to be a colorful area, because that is the area of learning and development for the child. Critical thinking begins at that stage. The child should be exposed to the environment. I see that with your teachings, you teach people a lot to do a lot of grounding, going out. It's going to be a struggle to some people who had faulty foundations, who were not taught that. I see today we are teaching people a lifestyle. If you started early, you're not going to have a problem at your older ages. If the parents had built, look, children in that age bracket learn from their siblings, learn from their parents. So as a parent, you yourself, children do not obey commands as much as they follow your own pattern, which is called mirroring. As a parent, you must have a healthy lifestyle. In the business of parenting, you must fix yourself first before you can fix a child. If you're irresponsible, the tendency is that you have irresponsible children. An apple does not fall. An apple, they say, does not fall far from the tree. So, screen time should be highly regulated. That has been one of my latest messages to parents. Let your children go out. In the building of psychomotor development, teach your children a sport. It is not don't think of the money. Sporting activities must not be professional sports per se. It may be simple gaming activities that you can use what you have in your house. Taking an evening walk, running from the beginning of one point to the other, throwing the ball and catching the ball. Allow your children to wash their plates. If they eat in their plates, they can wash their plates. The act of washing plates is not slavery. It is helping in psychomotor development. If your child sleeps on the bed, the child can make the bed. It is helping in the ability to develop psychomotor. If the child takes a shower, the child can comb their hair. A child is not a toy. Helping themselves not only helps in psychomotor development, but also disciplines the child and impacts greatly on their character and conduct. Like I tell my children, the state of your room is a reflection of how you will perform academically. You cannot tell me that your room is in a mess and you tell me that in your classroom you cross your T's and you dot your I's. I will doubt that very seriously. You will take details for granted. The way your room is speaks loudly to the kind of things you do, how much you take your details for granted. So parents must begin to understand that from the formative years, you must pay attention to details. Let your children be involved in the development of their lives. I didn't tell you to pack the whole plate in the house and give to them. If they ate in their own plate, let them wash their own plate. And somebody asked me a question, said, Dinah Mary, at what age should the child wash the plate? I said, when the child is from 3, 4, 5. Is it going to be perfect? No. But as the child keeps on doing it, consistency is a very important virtue in raising up children. We go another thing in psychomotor. I've just taught psychomotor development. Energy channeling. Children have a lot of energy. As parents, to channel their energies, you must look into these 3 domains of learning: psychomotor, cognitive, and affective. Cognitive talks about the knowledge and the intelligence of a child. It can be developed. Now, for most parents, what you always do is, after academic work in the class, we are so hell-bent on what they teach children in school that children do not buy any books. Parents do not buy any books outside of school, classroom textbooks. Buy books outside other books, within, outside of A for apple and B for ball. Books that teach your children about money, simple principles on taxing, governance, income, outcome, expenditure, simple things like that in simple language. Buy those books. Character formulation. The Bible is not the only book. Spiritual books are not the only books. Books that will make your children function in society. There's something they call the 7 pillars of society, which speaks to government, business, media, education, you name them, the 7 pillars. Buy books around those. One of the books I gifted my daughter when she was 9 years, getting on 10, was Tim LaHaye's Why You Act the Way You Do. Because I need her to discover a lot of things, to ask questions. Why You Act the Way You Do, and she's handed it over to her sister who just turned 9, because it's a standard for them to read it. They have other books. They have books on leadership. There are 5 critical books that you must read in my house before you turn to the age of 10, so that you ask questions. Whether you skip the pages or not, but it has, during the holiday, my children do not read school books. It is prohibited. You take 5 pages of books outside of school books and you read, so that, do they have screen time? Yes, screen time is seriously administered, because children have the tendency to want to be addicted to the screen. Now, what we do mostly during the holidays is play games. We play a lot of games. As a parent, I'll tell you a personal story. Before the job where I resigned, I had the option of picking a job that would make me travel a lot. The reason why I turned down that job was because I was in a phase where my children needed me. One of my mantras is that I have no business in my older age running around my children. By the time they are 18, they should be able to make critical and sound decisions, even for me as their mother. I should be able to be at that phase where I can hand the business over to my child and not lose sleep. Why am I that confident? Because I have put in the work. One of the questions my friends keep asking me each time I try to talk about children and how you raise children, they say to me, Dinah Mary, children will be children. They will mess up. I say, you are so interested in the fact that the child will mess up that you're ignoring the work you're supposed to put in at this time. Forget about messing up. But you see, as I have evolved in my journey with holistic education, if I can manifest a car, if I can manifest a job, if I can manifest a house, I can manifest reasonable, valuable children in my life. There is no compromise in being absolute about that. As Dinah Mary concerned, I have no business having useless children. I have no business having irresponsible children, because I have put in and I keep putting in the work through the early stages of their life. And so as parents and as caregivers, we have to come to the place where we are absolute. God forbid, my son cannot become the president of Nigeria and perform less, because he has been raised for leadership. My son will not be a nuisance spiritually, because by himself, my children go to church. I've sat down here, my children have gone to church because they chose to go today. I have not shut them out from understanding that within religious, they are not confined to religion. They perform rituals like me, but I have told them, I say, you have to be spiritual. You have to understand your spirituality and your personality. You spoke about the programming of the DNA. From that day, Mr. Femi, the children affirm every day with their own mouths, without me, affirm every day to cut themselves up from negative patterns from their mother and their father's house. That is, as their mother, I will pray for them. But children are human beings, but as individuals that they are, I have been able to teach them. My youngest is 7. That they are patterns, and I have done an audit on my own bloodline, and I said, look, in my family, these are the negatives that I identify. On your father's side, these are the negatives, and we assess them, and these are the positives. These are the positives. So it is in your hands to delete the negatives break that bloodline pattern and adopt the positives. So it is a conversation we have had in the simplest possible form for them to understand. So in the list of their affirmation is simply put, I cut myself off from negative patterns from my mother and my father's side. I absorb and I adopt positive patterns. Every wealth that my forefathers did not manifest, I, call your name, I, Ononse Splendor Owan, will manifest that. That is simple affirmation. At 7, 8, 9, you're doing that. Take it and run with it. I've given you the information and the knowledge. So in your spiritual journey, you understand affirmation, spirituality, individuality of where you come from is a currency that you must hand over to your children. 2 days ago, I told my children, they went to church today, and I said, Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac are the ancestors of the people where they come from. Do not neglect your own ancestors. So in bringing up the children in holistic education, I make sure that they are sure of their identity. I've spoken about cognitive development cognitive development speaks of knowledge and speaks of intelligence. Children should not be limited to classroom books. The classroom does not solve half the problem in child development. Every school in Nigeria does inter-house sports second term of a 3-year session following the British curriculum. Inter-house sport does not develop a child's ability. Look, I've mentioned Kobe Bryant, I've mentioned Serena Williams, I've mentioned Rafael Nadal, I've mentioned even those people who sang. Mr. Femi, you're a musician, you know some classicals. Beethoven was born into a line of musicians, and he started as a child. Look at Yo-Yo Ma. Yo-Yo Ma started classical musicians, a cellist, a fantastic cellist. Till today, he's in mention. He started as a child. You talk of Wolfgang. Wolfgang started as a child. You talk of actors and actresses, Kristen Stewart, Drew Barrymore, Scarlett Johansson. They all started as children. Allow your children to express themselves in the kindergarten stage. Identify the points that they have strength and support them. I have a daughter who started talking of ballet. It was alien to me when she was 2, 3, 4. She was so flexible. On the bed, she would split and lie down. She wants to eat, she would split. I was a little confused because ballet is alien to me. I don't know about ballet. But I knew this was something, because I had children, I knew this was something that must either be special or a congenital disorder. But growing up, I found out that she kept on trying to somersault. So when we moved to Abuja, when she was about 7, 8, she said she wanted to do gymnastics. I had to find out where she could do gymnastics, which I found one at the National Stadium. So she's the only one who doesn't gravitate towards tennis in my house. So she gravitates towards gymnastics, and I sent her there. I may not understand the conclusion of her love for gymnastics and why she's doing it. But there's something, as somebody who is conscious as a parent, I can tell you, that in developing that skill or ability, it will be very helpful along the journey of her life. Already it helps in her fitness journey. At their ages, they are supposed to be fitness conscious. Yesterday they went to the stadium, they are on holiday. This evening they will go and play tennis. I'm not pushing them towards the line of whether they are professionals or learn the sport beginning to even if you're not a professional, it will help you in lifestyle. Everybody needs an active lifestyle. It is part of energy channeling. You want to wonder why your children do not bend towards peer pressure is that you have not channeled their energies appropriately. The areas of energy channeling would be sports, music, skill acquisition. If you're a parent and you hope to be a parent, you have to take these 3 things into consideration: sports, music, skill acquisition. And please, when a child comes up and tells you, I want to become a tailor, that is the language the child knows. Don't say, God forbid. Have a conversation. The child can become a stylist, a fashion designer, and that can be along the lines of the child's passion. It's not going to stop the child from going to school. So don't shut a child's passion out completely. So Now, for the affective domain of learning, this is very important. A child affective domain speaks of the values of the child, the emotions, the morals, the discipline, and all of that. Now, there's something they call subliminal configuration. When a child is born, the tendency for parents, particularly mothers who have the time, most of the time, always to be with the children, is that your emotions, even when they are negative, you can vent. I'll give you a simple example. We spoke about firstborn daughters. I don't want to delve into that today. Most children, some children have suffered the fact that they grew up listening to their mothers or their fathers speaking negatively about the other parent. Either it's with a conversation with some other person. Okay, let me use women for example, because I'm a woman and it is really relatable. Your father, I don't know if your father, can I use the word useless on TikTok? Is it
Of
something?
course, why not?
Your father
Yes,
is
you
a
can.
useless man. If this man has caused me pain, this man has caused me torture. This man, some of the first daughters are prone to seeing their mothers crying out of regret for the kind of marriages they ended up in. Now, listen to me. I'm talking to you now not as a perfect person. I've had my hurdles. But the one thing I will not do is expose my children to that kind of emotion. Consciously, I shut that out. I have no business shutting my children away from their father. So you find most first daughters seeing their mothers crying, seeing their mothers in regrets about the men that they married. See, it may not mean anything to the child as a child, but there's something you call subliminal configuration, which is like deposits into the subconscious, the line between that level below the conscious, and they keep adopting it, they keep taking it in. You're exposing your child to the junks of her father. The father who should be the hero is supposed to be the first love of the daughter's life. You're exposing the girl to areas of the father's life she's not supposed to be in. See, the trash of the father. Now listen, that is very negative. Because in subliminal configuration, when the child grows up, this is where you get things like men has come. Because she has seen it with her mother. Now her guards are up. She now has, what happened to my mother will not happen to me. So if she has a man who is a perfect man, a man who will never cheat, a man who has chosen not to cheat, she will eventually drive that man into cheating. Not because he set out to cheat, but because she will be looking for faults where there are no faults. She will be sniffing where she's not supposed to sniff. Are you sure you're just coming from the office? Are you sure you that girl is just your secretary? Are you sure that girl is? They may truly be nothing, but because she has been subliminally configured by way of her upbringing, Mr. Femi. There is something, and subliminal configurations have a way of affecting behavior. It is Ibro would know this. It is used in advertising. They put subtle messages in their logos that when you see, you know that this logo can make me happy. So that is what happens in the house. When a boy who sees a father always punching the mother, he will know at a child that this is not right too. But there is a subliminal configuration that at the slightest provocation, when he becomes a man, he is more prone to hitting a woman. Whether he knows it is right or it is wrong.
Or not.
So for the woman now, either she would naturally say, she will raise her stakes in a bad way to say, I will never marry a man like my father, because this is what my mother suffered in the hands of my... It becomes a standard for them. But even when they do not gravitate that way, even when they become good girls, they will look at their husbands and gradually drive him into... The man will be just... That's why the man will run and leave the house. Because he will investigate him until the man gets frustrated. So as parents, let's go back to the basics. As parents, when you are ready to become a parent, the terrible mistake you made in the spouse you chose is none of your children's business. Whether your spouse becomes irresponsible, whether you have regrets for the man or the woman you marry, those children did not send you. Listen, those children have no business in your regrets. I have a model. People say 50-50. I am not a 50-50 mother. I am a 100-100 mother because I have seen women become widows. I have seen women become divorcees. I have seen women become single mothers. What happens in the event that the father or the mother is not present? Does it mean the children should suffer? No, you have to step up. So in conscious parenting, please bring 100-100. It is not trade by barter. What you are doing is protecting. Listen, and at the same time, I always advise parents, in taking care of your children, please take care of yourself. Mr. Femi, I just started living my life. And I tell you this because every child deserves a champion. Whenever my children grow up, whether I'm in this life or I am not in this life, ask my children, who are your role models? Mr. Femi, my name will be there. My name will be there because I have become a champion in my children's life, to the extent that the way I look, the way I smell, the way I coordinate my space, my pursuits in my career, it is not just because I want to gratify myself, but because my children deserve a champion. That when my children become anything, they will say, this is the daughter of, you will call my name. That is why I push every day. So as a parent, your junk or the choice of the parent of spouse you married is none of your children's business. Stop initiating your children into subliminal configurations that would affect their lives negatively. Stop talking negatively about the man you married in front of your daughter. Stop talking negatively about the woman you married in front of your son. Stop running down your spouses in front of your children. If you don't want to have children, please don't. Children have academic problems, cannot perform in class because of the troubles in the house. Now, having said that, remember the 9-year circle. 0 to 9 is the formatting year. Train up a child in the way he should grow. In the 0 to 9 angle, you have 0 to 7, which is the theta stage, where the children are mopping up, where the children are, and some of you like shouting on children without knowing that children that are 0 to 7, the ones you see that cannot sit one place, that is the stage of life they are in. What you need to do is to channel the energy appropriately. So when you keep shouting on it, some of you will hit children between ages 0 to 7. These are kindergarten. The children should be playing. Playing is a form of child development and learning. It is not. So stop taking your children. Okay, today is Sunday. Some of you have gone to church. Your children have sat in Sunday school for 4 hours. What has a child that is 4 years old got to do to sit for 4 hours? What is the child listening to, for God's sake? 4 hours? 5 hours? As I'm talking to you now, my children have started keeping their gaming spots. My children are not addicted to television because I have trained them that way. Is there data? Is there subscription? They don't bloody care. If it's not available, they have where to channel their energies, with or without me. But it is more fun when I am there. You must teach affective domain of, sorry, I'm littering it here and there. The affective domain of learning speaks about morals and values. I will just highlight one of the values that I teach my children. I teach them love, self-love, and love for one another. The greatest benefactor at the end of the day may be me, because they will love me as a mother. But I must first teach them to love themselves and love. I've taught them that, look, there's nothing out there. The first love, if you cannot love your sibling, how can you love another person that is outside? So when you speak to yourself, you must speak to yourselves with respect. You speak to yourselves with respect. Their children, it may not be perfect. They will still have squabbles, but they are absorbing it. Because as a mother, I know that this is the stage of creating impressions, of learning, of absorbing, right? So in teaching them self-love, I must love myself. I must show. There are times that they provoke me, but I have to calm down. I'll tell you, I have a daughter. When I scold her, she sleeps. She's just 9. The next morning, after her good morning, is, Mommy, I understand you were angry with me yesterday, but you were too hard. She will tell me, say, you were too hard. And if I assess my actions and I was hard, I will apologize. Some of you think you can't apologize to your children. I will apologize. Yes, I was hard, but let us go back to the reason why I corrected you. Have you taken correction? So it is important that as parents, you must teach your children love for themselves and love for their siblings. There are some children who grow into adulthood and cannot even see their siblings. Sibling rivalry is a normal phenomenon that happens, but you must learn to teach your children to grow above it. It must be healthy. I don't understand how you become adults and you're at war with your siblings. Every family where there are children must have a culture. Culture is a currency. I mentioned it. A currency you must hand over to your children. This culture, you should have family traditions. Some families make it a must that they must come together once in a year, 2 times in a year, and speak about their well-being, speak about where they are, how they can help each other. It is very important that the home becomes, or the family is, a fulcrum to energize yourself. Between yourself, if you have raised your children in such a way that their relationship with their siblings is one that they can draw strength from. There are some people who, if not for the brothers or the sisters they have, their husbands would have shown them shaggy. There are some people that, if not for family, listen, you people think it's a joke. If not for family, some people are suffering because when the man or the woman looks at the family, they know there's nobody there. So they can mess with you. See, I tell my children that you must be family such that even your sister's husband looks at you, he knows he cannot mess with you.
Yeah.
He knows he cannot mess with you. I will be a mother such that even my daughter's husband sees he knows he cannot mess with my daughter. You should build your children in a way to love themselves that even their spouses will know that they are not lost because they got married to them. That is future advantage. But all of this teaching starts from cradle. All of this teaching starts from when you are children. It's 0 to 9. If you miss it in age 0 to 9, it will be very difficult from age 10 to 18, where you have the logic and analysis stage, where children begin to ask questions. Why is it that my own father drops me at the school gate and just goes behind? But Christiana's father drops, they say bye-bye, they give a hug, and they go. Your child will look for validation from the boy in her classroom who has told her she's beautiful, who makes her feel special, because you're not making her feel special in the house, or you're not making him special. I want to share a little story with you. My son is in the boarding house, and my son is 14 years old today. I did not fail in his sexuality education from age 3 to age 10. I gave him sexuality education doesn't only have to do with sexual relationship. It also has to do with understanding yourself as a man or as a boy. When my son was 8 years old, he came to me and said, "Mommy, I want to tell you something." I said, "What?" He said, "8 years." He said, "Mommy, there's one girl in my class. When I see her, my pee will just stand like this." That was my son. Yes, those are the conversations I have with my kids. And I laughed. I said, "I'm very happy, first and foremost, that your pee stands. But that is just to tell you that you are a boy, you are a man, and you have approached puberty. Those are the tendencies in puberty. That's the response system in your puberty era. It's just like when you're cooking food. You don't eat the food when it's not ready. So right now you're in the cooking stage. You're still developing. So you cannot eat raw food. What happens is that it is just accept the fact that you are growing. It is not the action stage. You're not supposed to gravitate toward. It is just telling you that you gravitate towards girls. You, as a boy, you will like a girl, and your body is developing, which makes me happy as your mother. This is where we begin to learn discipline. And my son said, "Okay." So I kept speaking with him throughout. How do you feel mentally? I gave him 1 or 2 things which I'm not going to say here. That's part of the teaching for tomorrow. These are the things you will do in that event, that you see this girl. Do you know that by the time he was in primary 6, and I asked him, took him back, I said, "How?" He said, "Mommy, leave that one safe. I beg. That one is a joke. Don't talk about it." I said, "You see why I shouldn't have taken it? Now it means nothing." This in which month was it? I think 2 months ago, the father called me. He's with the father. The father called me and said, at about 9 p.m., Pat is not in the house. I had an issue with him, and I asked what the issue was. He says that he noticed that my son's laptop was bad. He took it for repairs. And as he took it for repairs, he noticed that he was texting to a girl. He was chatting with a girl. My son is in SS1, that he was chatting with a girl. and he told him never to chat with that girl, but he realized that the conversation went on, and that is a taboo. So he called him from the repairer's place. So you've been talking to this girl, and he made a case. And so when immediately he called him from the repairer's place, my son ran out of the house. And so, and I asked him, why are you calling me now? He said, because you're the only one who can call him to come back home. So I knew that everything was all right because I know the boy that I raised. So immediately, I said, have you not called him? He said, he's not picking his call. I said, good. This is a lesson I will teach you after I've spoken to my son. I called my son and I started laughing. And I said to him, where are you? Are you safe? He said he was safe. I said, so why don't you want to go? He said, I want daddy to calm down. I said, okay, I think you should go home now. It's getting late. I never spoke about whether he was chatting with a girl or anything. He went home. And I called the father and I said, a 14-year-old boy will naturally have conversations with a girl. The question is, what is he discussing with the girl? You cannot just go ballistic on a 14-year-old boy because he was talking to a girl. This is our first son who one day you hope is going to bring you a wife. Except you don't want him to get married. In SS1, he's having a conversation with a girl. As opposed to kill him, have a conversation with him man to man. I never spoke to my son about that. But 2 weeks later, by 4 a.m., I called his phone. And I reminded him of all the teachings because I knew that he wouldn't do anything wrong. I reminded him of all the teachings we had from way back. And I said, now you see, you have come to that place where girls are either finding you attractive or you're finding girls attractive, where you're beginning to talk to girls. And I know that you're not talking to this girl about biology, chemistry, or physics. You are talking to this girl. Now I am talking to you as a teenager. This is the stage where your emotions can either rule you or the discipline we once spoke about can tide you over till you come. I told him, I said, look, I will be the first woman to take you to the club, my son. Both of us. I said, the reason why I am a babe is so that the day you say you want to go to club, I wear jeans with you for the first day. And we will go and sit down there, you sit, and we will have a good time. I said, but listen, what happens with emotional involvement when you're in school and when you are building for your future is that it is a high level of distraction. I'm sure that every 2 minutes you're going back to talk to this guy. I'm not saying we should become enemies, but I want you to know that at this age and this stage, nothing significant can happen between both of you. To say, because you're 14, for God's sake, you have matured in ways that as your mother, I can't even bath you anymore. But there are certain things you must take into consideration. Who you are, where you are heading, and where you're coming from. There are certain entanglements that are unhealthy. And I know that my son knows what I am talking about and has taken dressing from that. You understand what I say? So you see, but we have families. I may not be a perfect example, but we have families that their children will not even talk about such things with them. The fact that they are not talking about it with you doesn't mean they are not engaging in such things. There are certain boys who are 14, 15 who are sexually active. You have not taught them so many things that can make them take informed choices. The word is make informed choices. I remember I had to read some certain areas of the Nigerian Constitution to teach my son about rape. That is because I'm a mother. The Constitution says that there is a penalty. Is it 12 years or 14 years penalty for rape? And it further says that it is not just the young man who was caught in the action of rape, but the young boys who knew about it, who were around. The fact that you're not the one who instituted forceful penetration doesn't mean that there's no punishment for you. So my son, where at this stage of 14, where boys are gravitating towards girls and are becoming sexually active, there is something called rape. And there are certain men who are beasts by nature, who have not been trained, who have not been raised by their parents or the environment they find themselves. Should you be in an environment like that, you are as guilty as the rapist. And I'm not saying that, my son, you're a rapist, but I need to let you know that you must flee. You must flee and not be part of such communication. I had to read the law to tell him to find crimes that are punishable by law for young men and give it to him to read so that he can make informed choices. So if my son today chooses to go and involve in things I have shown him the repercussions or the consequences, shame on him. But I have given him the tool and he can make informed choices. So that takes us to the fact that as a parent, you must be conversant with so many things. There was a time when my children were having allergies. When I get to the hospital, the first thing the doctor will say to me is, what have you done? Let's take over from there. Because the hospital knew that, I'm sorry, I say this with every sense of modesty. My children's school and the hospital, when once I arrive, they know that I know what I'm saying. There are several times I have returned notebook and said, this lesson is not correct. There is no school. When we have the event, they will see my face. There is no school. I say, this model and this thing is wrong. This is the way you should do it. I remember when my kids were in nursery school, I said, kindergarten phase, they have no business having table and chair. The only thing I'm to give this child is lunch pack. Create a play area. If you will not create for other people's children, you will create for my child. Because the child must play. Child must build psychomotor and cognitive here. Stop telling them, sit down, put your head on the table. That's too military. That is too military. So parents, raising children is not a walk in the park. It is a commitment to develop them all around, even spiritually. Some of you raise children at the from the dictates of your pastor. Some of you raise children from the dictates of I don't know, of the television, the way you're watching your screen time. Now it's K-drama, and I don't know what the sequence is. What do they call the Bollywood one? You must sit down and develop a model, because in your old age, look, you will go around bailing your sons from prison. They would disgrace you. When you affirm that your children should not disgrace you, then when you stand up from your spot of affirmation, put in the work. And I can assure you as a mother myself that your children will not disgrace you. God has blessed me with a lot of daughters. And I want to tell you that I have no business settling marital issue for my children in future, because I believe I'm raising them in a way that they themselves will know how to take care of themselves, their husband, and their family. And in making the choice of the man they want to marry, they will not be foolish about it. 2 days ago, my daughter came home and told me that the aboki that sells fruits in front of her gate is making advances at her. By the way, my daughter is 10. And so she was talking about it. I told her that I'm very happy that a boy finds her attractive. It's part of the stage. That her contours are coming out. And we laughed about it. Then I said to her, my daughter, in the dating market, as you will call it, as you grow older, you get to 18, 19, 20, there are men who will find you, you will eventually date to marry somebody. There is a vibration that I expect. There is a level and there is a standard. Do not be flattered that the man selling fruits, an uneducated man who is selling fruits, is admiring you. Moving forward, it should be an insult when somebody like that admires you and you feel flattered. It is not abasing him. The truth is that I have raised children that play at a certain level, not because I am an extremely rich woman, but because I am spiritually conscious to know that there are certain things I don't want to introduce in their bloodline. It's a big affair. You are not going below the standard, and you are not of the age where you even feel flattered first. I'm happy for you. I want you to be happy that, yes, that means that you're beautiful. You should raise, you're beautiful. You are beautiful. But you see, you begin to pay attention to the details and the red flags, which some of us, our parents, never taught us. Some of us never had standards for the kind of men we should even fall for. For example, like I always say, the firstborn daughter. The firstborn daughter has no business being with a weak man. I am a firstborn daughter, Mr. Femi. I am the firstborn daughter of a firstborn daughter. Right? I am the firstborn daughter of a firstborn daughter, and now I have a firstborn daughter that I must teach. Mr. Femi, a firstborn daughter will run around for the funeral of her parents. That means as a firstborn daughter, you will be in the forefront of the funeral arrangement of your parents if it is the right order of, how it's supposed to be. A firstborn daughter will handle major responsibilities, including taking care of her own children, and in the event that her own parents die, she will be there to go and help her younger sisters who have put to bed. Listen, the firstborn daughter is 10 in 1. She handles responsibility from the beginning. That's why, as a mother, I'm sorry that I'm going to firstborn daughters. In the society, we suffer from a wound of patriarchy. So men, you already know that you people are Lord and King. They've already taught you people this, all of us know. But you see, but for the women, we must understand that the firstborn daughter is the carrier of her father's house. A heart, H-E-A-R-T.
I think we lost Dr. Diana there. Maybe she has a network challenge. Can you hear her?
Okay, good. The
Okay.
firstborn daughter is the carrier of her father's heart. The relationship between the firstborn daughter and her father is a special one. It is not because she's supposed to do anything. It is because there is an office that the firstborn daughter occupies, spiritually, physically, and a firstborn daughter is a leader. That is why, mothers, you should be very careful not to drive your firstborn daughters too hard and rob them of their childhood. Know when they are children, don't drive them too hard and rob them of their childhood. And at the same time, you should not expose her to subliminal configurations. Your firstborn daughter is not to help you achieve what you did not achieve as a woman. Allow her to live her dreams. She is still operating in the office of the firstborn. Do not laden her with unnecessary expectations. I am a firstborn daughter. The things I have gone through are 1 in a million. But we have stood. Not too many firstborn daughters stand to tell the story. Some of them end up depressed. And there's so
I think we lost her again. Our audio. Maybe it's the network. Maybe it's the
what's
network.
the network? Somebody is trying. Not the network. It's not the network.
Okay. All right,
Some
go
of
ahead.
us were not taught how to look. Some of us were not taught how to look for spouses, but our parents expected that we should get married. You understand? Some of us just went because the home was hot, so we needed to find love in a man. It's exciting, and we felt that when we meet these men who have told us they love us, that's all it is. Marriage takes more than love. Marriage is a partnership. Marriage is not love. Oh. Machiavelli has said it before. People get married for different. That's why you see in royalty, when you want to marry in the royal echelon, you don't just wake up and go and marry anybody. You must marry along the bloodline. You must marry along the bloodline. The firstborn daughter must marry along the bloodline. Okay? She must marry either a firstborn son who already has earned the emotional intelligence, the maturity, and is also in the, because a firstborn son is also 10 in 1 if he is truly a firstborn son. Or she must look for the man that has the maturity, who has broken a lot of chains, who understands what it means to marry a firstborn daughter. Some men will marry a firstborn daughter and say, you cannot listen to your mother, you cannot, those things are not put in the front, but there are certain roles and responsibilities that a firstborn girl carries that a man should respect that. Honor that, because she is the carrier of the structure of the father's house. You couldn't tell me that because my daughter is married to you, if I fall sick, she cannot call me and say, hello, mommy, how are you doing? It's not, it's not, it's unheard of, but we have the wound of patriarchy where these things happen. So first and foremost, if you are a child, if you're a parent and you have a firstborn daughter, I spoke about modules. We'll speak about these modules tomorrow. I spoke about modules, and these modules will help you. Every child is peculiar. Every child is peculiar. The last-born child is not the toy of the house. They have an office they occupy. The last hope. The last-born child is not a toy. Like people say, this one is last-born. They have their own. Every child has a peculiarity. Every child has an idiosyncrasy, and every child has a need. You do not put all the children in one boat and pedal. As a parent, it is your job to understand the idiosyncrasies of your child. and raise them according to those idiosyncrasies. Some families have children who come up with congenital disorders. Some of them are not feeling too well. Some of them are like this, some of them are like. So does it mean because that one has a problem, you will box that child up with? No, you will attend and address that need. Some children are more emotional than the other child. Some children, you raise your voice too much, you can lock them in. You can cut them off. They can suffer depression. So as a parent, in the formative years, these are the things you should look out for, 0 to 9. Look out for the strengths of the child. Afford the child the right environment. The right environment. Do not set your expectations. They are still in their developmental phase. Allow children be children. But in allowing children be children, develop a curriculum or a module as a parent that meets the developmental needs of your child. Spiritual, I'm not leaving spirituality out of it because it is very important. Those of you who are Christians, they say you wrestle not against flesh and blood. Not so. Your children must affirm. I've already given you an example of my own affirmation where I tell my children take authority and break bloodline patterns that are negative by affirmations and putting in the work. Spiritually, you must build a module. Let your children know that they have to be spiritually alert and spiritually conscious. Psychomotor wise, you must build a module. And please, some of you are more Western than the Westerners. Let your children know their culture. Let them know their roots and where they come from. Psychomotor, you must build in psychomotor activities. Cognitive development, you must build in cognitive activities. Some of these things, I'm going to mention them tomorrow. I don't need to go into them. Affective, you must develop affective domains of learning as well. As a parent, you must be the champion. Every child deserves a champion. The classroom teacher is not the champion of the child. The classroom teacher has over 20 people in his class. He can never give your child maximum attention or treatment. He cannot. He can only do well for your child when you're looking at him and you're putting your eye there. But the moment you leave, you don't know what is going on. Please, I beg you. Something happened in my daughter's school. A child told my daughter, I says, does anybody escort you to the toilet when you're going, or the restroom when you're going to the restroom? My daughter said no, but immediately she came home and told me, this is a conversation a child had with me. So I called my other daughter and then we now said maybe, in fact, immediately my 10-year-old daughter said she must be going through abuse. Because why will a child be asking another child, do people follow you into the restroom? So when my daughter came in from the angle of abuse, it became a concern to me. So I went to school for 2 things, to find out if the child is undergoing abuse. After having the conversation with the child, I found out that the child herself is the one who is a suspect and possibly wants to follow my own child to the toilet, and possibly, you know what, children are very mischievous. So we had a nice conversation and I told her that those are not the kind of conversations that are appropriate. I don't know about other children, but for my children, that's crossing the lines. And that's why my daughter brought it up with me. You understand? That's why we had this conversation. So you see, you should be open to your children. The moment you keep shouting on your children, you don't bring up the level playing ground for them to speak with you. The truth of the matter is that they will speak to some other person. They will be indoctrinated by vices and values, and different things are going to happen. A child learns through mirroring. I adopted a boy once from the streets. Unfortunately, this boy, we sent him through counseling, sent him through therapy, sent him through all kinds of things. I told my children about his idiosyncrasy. So when he came home, one of the conversations he brought up, which was reported to me, was that I will put it the way the child put it. Now, this is what this boy said. He said, I used to do raping. He can't speak well. He said, I used to do raping. Now, what he means is that he was exposed to sexual practices. He was living with his uncle in a 1-bedroom flat. And in that 1-bedroom flat, at night, when he's sleeping, the uncle will bring in women. So the child was exposed. That is what he knows. Now, in most cases, people would think that I should shout on him, I should beat him. No. That is what he was exposed to at 10 years old. He didn't know any other thing. So the choice is yours as a parent. What you expose your children to is what they would know. You expose your children to reading of books, they will be reading books. Expose your children to sporting activities, they will read sporting activities. Expose your child to swimming, the child will know how to swim. Expose your child to studying a foreign language, at childhood, The child will learn. Children at the age of 3 can learn 3 languages. At the age of 3, when once they cross to age 7 and they start going up, they get distracted. To learn even one language becomes difficult, very difficult. We started with neuroplasticity because at the age of 3, neuroplasticity or brain plasticity is at the highest. They're in the theta stage where they can absorb many things and anything. Take advantage of the stage 0 to 9, under 0 to 9, 0 to 7. I'm not going to dwell too much on 10 to 18 because our scope covers 0 to 18, which is broken into 2, another sub areas, which we'll talk about extensively if I have the chance. Yes, we will have the chance. I'll summarize it tomorrow. Now, before I wrap up, Mr. Femi, thank you for your time. Parenting is consciousness. The moment you choose to have a child, you must begin to research. Any parents should give their 100%. If you want Nigeria to be better, raise the president in your house. Leave Tinubu alone. Raise the president in your house. If you want the governor of your state to be a fantastic governor, let your child become that governor. Raise your child to become that governor. If you want to listen to better music, raise your child to begin to play better music. If you want to watch good tennis or good soccer, raise your child to become that different. The difference of the future you want to see is in your hands. The future of your old age is in your hands. In your hands because the children that you raise, either biological children, either by children via adoption, either children through IVF or surrogacy, it is in your hands. Mold the future that you want. And I believe it is possible. I believe it is doable. And as I say, I have a mantra. I, Diana Mary T. Concern, I have no business having useless and irresponsible children. My children are excellent spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, culturally, and otherwise. My children are critical thinkers and solution driven. My children are problem solvers. They are valuable human beings and they are leaders. And even as I speak to you, my children are hearing me because they know that there are standards. They know that there are expectations. We have a family culture. We have a standard and a pattern that we must follow. We don't leave it to chance. By the time that they are 18, Mr. Femi, I want to believe that reasonably so, I have done the bulk of my work and I can trust their decisions because I am putting in the work. And I wish the same for members of our community. Do not sit down in this community and think it is just about you. Break down the knowledge, pass on to your children. Before I go, I started the lunar cycle ritual long before I met Mr. Femi, when I pray under the full moon or in the full moon, and I was doing it alone. One of my daughters noticed I was always sneaking out at a particular time because I like to do it when it's still dark and I like to do it outside. And I noticed one day while I was praying outside, she would come